a lot of the discomfort that comes from personal branding is actually coming from our own limiting beliefs about ourselves and our work. So when your story feels unclear, it can be super uncomfortable to start putting yourself out there. Who are you to start talking about your work and what you have to offer? What helps out most of my personal brand clients is that it's accepting that you don't have it all figured out. No one has their life figured out or,
Yeah.
their stuff figured out. But starting and just taking that first step, although it's the hardest part, is actually the key to building momentum. You have value no matter at what point in your career or life you're at. Like the best thing you can do is start. The best time to start was yesterday. The next best is today.
Thank you very much for coming. I know that you're always busy. Maybe you can introduce yourself briefly so that the audience knows who you are.
Yeah, of course. Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here and, to be a part of this community for this short amount of time, but really, really excited to be a part of this podcast. So I'm Anna Bertoldini. I'm a global brand and communications leader. I'm also a speaker, a storyteller, I like to say, and also a personal brand and career expert. And yeah, so I really specialize in a 360 view of brand and how it works, both from a corporate perspective, an employer brand perspective, and personal brand perspective. I've led employer brand marketing, executive visibility, and employee advocacy programs across international scale ups and multinationals. And yeah, now I'm excited to be here and to give some tips from my own experience for your community.
Thank you very much. I know that you have lived and worked across so many countries, and I would say it's quite an unusual path you've taken. How has this path shaped you over the years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so I grew up between Italy and the United States. So I was born and raised in Venice, Italy, but then my mom is from Buffalo, New York. So I kind of grew up between those two countries. And now I consider myself a global citizen. I've lived in 6 countries so far. So really global citizen, but also a confused citizen because you start to absorb so many different perspectives and ways of working and living when you work and live across these multiple countries, and it becomes part of your experience and your story as well. So confused, but also super enriched and elevated. I picked up so many skills, so much knowledge, and so many relationships along the way that will follow me forever. And I think what I learned the most is that although local nuance, ways of thinking and working and tactics change, human psychology always remains the same. And brand leadership is always about uncovering that human truth. And I always see the same patterns wherever I go. So that's been one of the biggest learnings is both absorbing all of this amazing experience, but also learning that human truths are quite universal.
From your point of view, since you lived in so many countries and places, what does home for you mean?
That is a great question, quite philosophical. For me, home is really a place where I feel comfortable, where I'm surrounded by a community of people that I know. Home is not necessarily a place. It's not necessarily like a building or a room. For me, it's more where do I feel comfortable and around who do I feel comfortable. And I think you can build a community wherever you go and you live, and it's those relationships that make a place really feel like home. So yeah, that's how I would define home. I mean, but that's my personal definition.
How does storytelling and also like maybe the personal storytelling play a role in your career in the different jobs you had?
Yeah, I think kind of related to the human truths thing, storytelling is such an integral part of how we live and communicate as humans that developing that storytelling skill of learning to talk to people, sell myself, my work, right, has really been beneficial throughout my career because I don't only use storytelling in my work, in brand campaigns, social media, in really the type of communications that I make for my professional life. I also use storytelling a lot in my personal life. A big part of how I built my community is around shared stories with other people, being able to relate to others, empathize with others. And I think stories can really help you do that and communicate across cultures because everyone loves a good story. Everyone connects with a good story. And I think that's really been my way to build my network and build my life in different places is through storytelling. So that's how I see storytelling really playing an integral part of my career.
You've collected like a lot of experiences and gained a lot of experiences in various areas, but I think you really have like high expertise in personal branding and employer branding. You often say that personal branding is identity work disguised as marketing. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in a way, personal branding is a couple things. It's first of all a lot of introspection, understanding what you're good at, what you want to grow in, and what you want to be perceived as, but also figuring out the value that you want to share with the world. Because a lot of personal branding is actually being a service to others. It's building trust with your audience, right? And you can only do that by building a relationship with them. And by giving away your knowledge for free and talking about the work that you did, not in terms of like how cool you were or, kind of in a way being self serving, you're doing it as a way to teach others what you learned throughout your career and your experiences. So marketing is marketing yourself, right? As an authority in your field, an expert, but also marketing the work that you do by framing it and positioning it correctly. And I think this is something that people really get wrong about personal branding is that they think it's self-serving, they think it's boasting about what you did and who you are, but it's really not that at all. It's more you're serving your audience. You really become dedicated to them by doing personal branding because it's taking what you know and sharing it with people rather than talking about your wins and your successes. It's always about framing and positioning it, which is the essence of marketing if you think about it.
That's super interesting. I think, especially at the beginning when you start to market yourself in order to grow. I think, at least for me, it was the case that it was quite tough to because you're playing with your brand out there publicly. And from your point of view, before doing that, what usually needs to shift internally so that I can grow authentically in the public?
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. So I guess the first part of my previous answer applies here, which is that identity work. Like it's so important to actually figure out what you do best, why you do what you do, and how you should share it with the world. I think that's the most important part is actually the personal brand strategy, right? Is really understanding what you do best, who are your people, like who's your audience, right? Who's the community that could benefit from what you have to share? And also, how are you going to do it? Like, what are you comfortable doing? I think also knowing what we're best at, what we're comfortable doing, our both our ambitions, but also our limits is super key here because let's say you want to start doing personal branding and you're really great at writing but you're not really great at making videos because maybe you're not comfortable in front of a camera or you're not someone who is so natural at creating content about yourself in video format. You're probably going to lean more into the writing and doing that consistently rather than the video making because some algorithm told you that now is a time to publish more videos. So it's really about that identity and inner work and understanding who you are, why you do it, what's your perspective as well. Super important. So I just want to add that. I think now with the advent of AI and AI content, it's important to say that a lot of what makes personal branding unique and important is your unique perspective on a specific topic that comes from your professional and personal experiences on that subject. So having a perspective that's clear and yours and uniquely yours is so important at the beginning. And that takes a lot of work. People think you just start posting and you figure it out. And yes, that may go that way, but knowing what you have to offer and why you do what you do is really the basis of starting off strong.
So, from your point of view, it's a lot of inner work, like to find out what's really aligned with yourself. How did you do that in your case?
Yeah, well, this is something that we spoke about in the past, but a lot of the discomfort that comes from personal branding is actually coming from our own limiting beliefs about ourselves and our work. So when your story feels unclear, like what you have to offer and why you do what you do, it can be super uncomfortable to start putting yourself out there. But also other limiting beliefs in which you think that you're not deserving of your success who are you to start talking about your work and what you have to offer? A lot of people feel like personal branding is, yeah, like I said earlier, about being arrogant or possibly looking silly for sharing, right? Because of these limiting beliefs about not being deserving of where you are and what you've achieved. So before I could lead an employer brand function or activate a brand campaign or start building my LinkedIn presence, because that's my main channel. I have other channels as well, but LinkedIn is definitely my main one. I needed to personally overcome my own insecurity around the value I could bring. I think my main limiting belief is probably imposter syndrome. It's something that I've always battled with is, when I receive external validation from people that tell me maybe how good my work is, when my performance reviews were going great, or when people were really acknowledging my work online, I felt like, okay, but they don't know who I really am or what I'm actually capable of. These people are definitely overstating what I can do. And that was coming from my own limiting belief of imposter syndrome, and that's something I had to quietly overcome. There's still that little voice in my head that says you don't deserve what you've achieved, but I definitely ignore it. It's gotten quieter and quieter throughout the years. So that's one of the things that I had to overcome and do my inner work on.
You mentioned like the imposter syndrome, but also like fear and self doubt. From your work with the people, which one shows up most often when it's about becoming visible?
Yeah. Actually, both quite equally. Self-doubt is a big one because for many reasons, people feel like they are gonna sound arrogant or silly in front of other people. There's that maybe performance nervousness in a way and thinking like, "Oh, are people gonna judge me if I start sharing what I know?" But also that imposter syndrome of, "Who do I think I am to be able to share what I know? Like, why would someone learn from me? I have nothing to teach." Whereas if you dig deep into your experience, you have a lot of knowledge that you may find obvious, but is actually gold to other people. There's so many things that you find obvious that are actually not obvious at all to other people. And one thing I did find out about kind of an imposter syndrome is that first of all, I wasn't alone as I started working on myself because a lot of people suffer from this, both men and women. But it's often a feeling that people get when they're leaving their comfort zones. When you're leaving your comfort zone, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a big step. Maybe it's a too big of a step for me. So reframing that imposter syndrome in I'm leaving my comfort zone and I'm growing was so beneficial in getting over it. So those are some of the things that people come to me the most with is like that mindset shift and helping them move from a mindset of I'm not, good enough for this, I'm undeserving to the mindset of I'm here for a reason and I deserve a seat at the table. And not only that, I'm gonna take it and shine.
Very interesting. Two things. Especially when you're about to start and you see on LinkedIn or on Instagram, whatever, wherever, people tend to compare itself with other people and with the people out there. And I think this is one which may prohibit you to get started. What is your point of view? And also, like from another perspective, I think we tend to overthink what people think about us. So, like, I don't know if you heard about the spotlight effect. In the end, people don't really care. Like most of the people don't really care. My question now is how do you teach people to just get started to overcome it? Those kind of theories.
Yeah, those are really good points actually, and, a lot of I think comparison is definitely a silent killer of personal brand because there's always someone that's doing something better, faster, stronger than you are out there. So I'll talk from personal experience and actually what helps out most of my personal brand clients is that I think it's accepting that you don't have it all figured out, and that frankly, from the managing director to the super successful founder, no one has their life figured out, or
Yeah,
their stuff figured out. But starting and just taking that first step, although it's the hardest part, is actually the key to building momentum. So knowing that you don't have it all figured out, knowing that no one does at any level, we're all just trying to move on and like find what's next for us. And no one has like a perfectly linear career or life. We're all just trying to do our best, but doing stuff anyway. Doing stuff even if you think, okay, I don't have it all figured out, I'll get there. Baby steps, right? That's been a huge mindset shift for me. That going from, being a person who was doing their job and, doing it well, but becoming then a top voice in my field. That is really the shift and something that's been so, so helpful in reminding me and also the people that I work with that you have value no matter at what point in your career or life you're at. Like the best thing you can do is start. The best time to start was yesterday, the next best is today.
And when people start to publish their product or service or themselves even, what do you recommend? How often should they post something? What should the strategy look like? Imagine there is a person who starts from zero.
Okay, so I'll say something that maybe goes against what the tips that LinkedIn gurus are giving you online. But I think the most impactful thing you can do as opposed to posting is actually engaging, especially at the beginning, rather than focusing on posting content 7 days a week, which is overboard and a really great way to lead to creator burnout. I would start with focusing less on posting, which at the beginning has a lot of pressure attached to it because you think, oh my gosh, I'm putting myself out there. I'm not used to this. And so it can be really scary. And focus instead on engaging and building community through comments, private messages, through following others, and really contributing to their work and their discussions because you can really build a strong brand in the comment section. So going to your favorite creators, going to the authorities in your field that you want to be connected to, that you want to be associated with, and adding your 2 cents to their content. Because people see that. That creator will see that, their community will see it, but also your community will see it. Your whole network, maybe not everyone, because of course the algorithm will serve it to only certain people, will see your comment pop up in their feed. And that is like a mini post. Every single comment that you put up there is like a little mini post. So adding value to discussions, and by value, I mean really taking the time to read what was posted and adding your perspective, something helpful, something useful to that discussion. So if someone is talking about, as a recruiter, providing a great candidate experience during the hiring process. You, if you're a recruiter, if you've worked in human resources or employer brand, whatever, if you have a perspective on this, add it in the comments and say, hey, this worked really well for me and my team. Back in the day, we implemented the solution and it really worked. Or this is how we've changed our communication with candidates to make sure they had a better experience. And you kind of lay out what you've done and how it changed things for you. This type of commenting takes more time, but it builds trust and authority a lot faster. So, focusing on leaving thoughtful, valuable comments more often at the beginning and connecting with people after a while, because of course you've showed up in their feed at that point quite a while if you keep commenting on the same people that you want to network with. Then you send them a connection request with, like, hey, I love your content, would love to connect with you, a personal message. Always leave a personal message, and those people will have already seen you. So you've built that familiarity bias with them, and they'll accept you. So starting off with engaging and building community that way, I think is amazing to build momentum, and then start posting. You can start off with like once a week, sharing an in-depth analysis of something going on in your field or a project that you worked on, a step-by-step, a how-to, right? And you can start with one post a week and then slowly build up to 2, 3, as long as you're consistent. Um, the important thing is always standing by your initial identity work. So your perspective, your story, your values, your purpose. So like your unique lens and consistency. So those are really like the most important things: perspective, consistency, and conviction. So knowing your value.
What would be the sweet spot? How many posts per week are best?
I don't think there is one. I think it's whatever you are comfortable and consistent with. I don't think there's like an ideal amount. I mean, most content creators I know post about 4 times a week. But if you start off with posting 4 times a week and then drop off for a month or two and then you start again, that's not gonna work. So start off small, build up your momentum as you go, and then get to where you're comfortable being, really. If it's 2 times a week, that's fine. If it's 5 times a week, that's fine. It's whatever you can stick to consistently.
Yeah. But in case that happened, for example, someone was posting like before Christmas twice a week and then he or she took a break and now after 2, 3 weeks, he or she starts again. How does the algorithm work in this case?
Well, I mean, it's normal to take breaks during significant times of change or when you're spending quality time with your family. So I would encourage taking breaks like that if they're beneficial. I do believe in the power of unplugging to gain perspective. I don't think that would hurt your chances of building a personal brand if you take small breaks. I think that's totally fine. I'm talking if you post 3, 4 times a week for like 2 months and then you drop off for like a month or 2 and you're gone and then not really interacting with anyone either. You just kind of drop off LinkedIn because then the algorithm will deem you as inconsistent. And it's actually the same with publishing and deleting posts too. Like if you publish something and then you delete it after a day or 2 because it didn't get as many likes as you wanted, that also hurts your reach because the algorithm sees you as inconsistent, like, "Oh, they're posting and deleting." So, stuff like that can hurt your reach in terms of the algorithm, but I would not optimize for the algorithm as much. I think what really reigns supreme now is finding what works for you and your community and less about hacking the algorithm because those that changes constantly. It's every week there's something new about the algorithm. So if your strategy is to hack the algorithm, it's definitely not it's tiring. You're never gonna win. There's always something new coming up. So I would really focus on the basics. Consistency, valuable content, perspective, and community building.
Have you ever felt pressure to upload content to maintain the consistency?
Yeah, for sure. As a creator, you have that type of pressure to be active all the time. So we feel it as creators that you need to keep up that momentum constantly, which a lot of times leads to burnout. That's a real thing, creator burnout. So although I feel the pressure, I do take breaks if I need to, because maybe it's time to unplug, maybe I'm too into it, maybe I need a break and I allow myself to do so.
One thing that could be important for communities, especially for community of self-employed people. What do they underestimate most about building a personal brand?
So many things. I think probably the biggest thing is the impact that it can have on their business. If you are constantly showing up and are top of mind for your community, word of mouth spreads about you being an expert in your field and being the go to person for that work. So being visible can open doors that you never could have imagined opening. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that people underestimate about personal branding is the amount of opportunities that can come from putting yourself out there are infinite. So it's just about overcoming that first step of starting.
Perfect. From your point of view, what feels important for people who have listened now to this episode? What are the takeaways for them?
Oh, I mean, I the main takeaway that I think people should go home with is to start building your brand today. Think about what you stand for, what you want to be known for. Do the inner work that we were talking about. Ask yourself those important questions and then slowly start building those routines, those habits, and that confidence to put yourself out there. Start by engaging and then slowly start sharing. But do the inner work first because that's going to help with the consistency with standing by your values, standing by your business and what you want to be known for. I think having that alignment at the beginning is going to be, it's going to help you be not just more consistent, but just being more clear and focused in what you produce and what you say.
Okay, perfect. And I think we have reached the end of this podcast episode. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge. Anna will and I will organize a webinar on the 20th of January. If anyone is interested, please feel free to join. I will drop the link below. And yeah, thank you so much, Anna, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciated.